with all this MCU news also comes the whole Dark Phoenix debacle. We mentioned the Dark Phoenix before. You haven't seen it yet.
No.
I have. I told you little things from it that weren't really spoilers, but it's a mess. I enjoyed it still. I think it's better than some of the X-Men movies. Not a lot of them. Like, it's better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's better than, like, I don't know, X3. I'm trying to think if it's better than anything else. I don't know if it is.
Ugh.
Like, but those are the worst by far, and it's much, much better than them. Like, it's maybe a notch below the mid-tier films.
Okay.
Because it's just a mess. And I am going into my opinion zone here now. Okay.
Okay.
Because this is from a comicbook.com article that showed what the Skrulls would have looked like in the movie originally. And you and I looked at this, and we said that we both thought that these looked much more menacing than the Skrulls in the MCU.
A lot more. I mean, it's like they're genuinely a little horrifying when you look at them. They've got just a freaky look to them.
They almost look like they have like vines almost like over their body. It looks like it's like tendrils, like Venom-ish looking.
Yes, yeah.
In that regard, their heads are flatter on top than like the skulls in the actual Captain Marvel movie or the MCU. They have more of like a hunched over look that's like associated with like villains, like how they look in a lot of things. They look good.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Would you say that, like, I'm not talking just this image. I'm saying, like, if this was high budget, fully fleshed out, don't you think this actually looks a little more interesting than the MCU Skrulls?
I think by a lot, to be honest. Yeah, I think they just look more formidable. You know, they look like they could do some damage. They look like very capable creatures, and they're a little scary, which could be interesting too. You know, it's not as family friendly. They could genuinely be a little horrifying. So there's just a little bit more for me that could be done with those than the ones that we saw in Captain Marvel.
And I would like to read this excerpt from the Cultured Nerd. This is a page on Instagram, but this is where this was originally shared on Instagram. And I think that it kind of sums up some of the feelings I have about my opinion zone of this, because I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he says that the movie was once a completely different movie. It featured the Skrulls, a coherent plot, more action, more spectacle, and an ending that would have left X-Men fans talking. I would also like to say, before, moving on from this, that it was also originally going to be 2 movies. It was going to be a part 1 and part 2. Deathly Hallows, like.
Oof.
Like, it was going to be like that, where it was going to be much more fleshed out.
And they just canceled that.
Yeah, they went for 1 only. They jammed it all into 1.
No wonder, yeah.
And so what Cultured Nerd said in this post is that then Disney came in prior to merger talks, demanded it to be changed, otherwise they would not agree to the terms of the buyout. So rumors and speculation point to different reasons why this happened. Some rumors say that it's to avoid conflicts with Captain Marvel. Some say it was to allow Marvel to reboot the X-Men franchise without fan backlash. But no one knows, I'm summarizing this, no one knows what the actual reasons are. So that's kind of my opinion zone on this one. As someone who loves the MCU, I really like a lot of the stuff Disney points out. I'm also not afraid to say when I don't like something they do. Because that's really what it comes down to. I don't like what they did with this. But at the end of the day, I just don't like the way this was handled. And I don't really buy that it was just Fox blowing it all at the last minute. Really? They blew it after some of their best movies ever, like Days of Future Past, Deadpool 1 and 2, Logan, and now they just totally dropped the ball completely? Like, really? I don't really buy that. Like, that doesn't really seem realistic to me.
Well, like we were talking too, and it was just it's obviously just speculation, but it makes sense logically that Disney would not want Fox to go out on a very high note, like with them kind of losing the rights to the characters or giving them up or getting bought out or whatever it was. They wouldn't really want Fox to come out with basically a product that was as good as like a Logan or a Deadpool, because if Marvel then says, maybe doesn't hit the mark or doesn't really connect with the audience like Fox did regarding these characters, well then, I don't know, like it just doesn't look as good for Disney. Then if Fox goes out on like a whimper and it's like, oh, Disney, come in and save these characters, make them great again, I guess. But you know,
were they building a wall around the X-Men or something?
No, dude.
Yeah, I think that if you are a fan who doesn't like the Fox Men or the Fox Xmen universe because of the style, I sort of get that, because it's gone back and forth over the years. Like, Ultimate's totally different, but in the comics, like, especially in the 80s, like, the X-Men were a little more uplifting than they are in the movies. Like, it's a very depressing universe. I get if you're not a fan of that style. That's a subjective thing. You don't like that, that's fine. Objectively, I don't think you can really objectively argue Logan's a bad movie. Or Deadpool 1 or 2, or even Days of Future Past. I don't think you can objectively argue that those movies are not good films.
They're great. Yeah. I
They're
enjoyed all of them.
Good, well-made films. Like, with a good story, good character arc. Especially Days of Future Past and Logan, able to build on that history of the franchise. But you don't even need it. Like, you could technically jump in at, like, Days of Future Past and still recognize it's a good movie objectively. The script is solid. The acting is very good. Hugh Jackman totally steals the show again for, like, the 5,000th time in a good way. You know, everything looks good. Even the effects are good. Like, there's nothing really bad about the last few X-Men movies before this. I mean, I guess Apocalypse, like, is a hit or miss for some people. I think it's really fun. I don't think it's the strongest, but I think it's really fun.
It's not a bad movie.
No.
You know? It's just an average movie. Good movie.
But those movies were good movies objectively.
Right.
And if you didn't like it, that's fine. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Objectively, it's well written. And so it makes sense that they wouldn't necessarily want this to be the best objectively written, the best X-Men movie going out, because it might, you know, overshadow their efforts. Or what if the Skrulls were way better in it than they were in Captain Marvel? Because the Skrulls in Captain Marvel were kind of a letdown. They were just kind of there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm bummed seeing this. I think it's just a sad move, because I really thought watching that movie it could have been fantastic, and it was just okay. And that sucks.
It does. Yeah, that's a sad way for it to go out. When they made a lot of really good content. So it sucks. It does suck.
And there was a lot of different things that happened throughout the X-Men movies existing from Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe that were a little weird to me. Like the fact that they never sold toys based off of it. Like, they sold some for the first movie. And maybe X2. And then they just stopped. And there was kind of this period in the MCU where the MCU got super big and they just started, like, acting like douchebags kind of about some stuff. Like, I remember when the Fantastic Four movie was coming out that was really bad, they canceled the Fantastic Four comics.
Oh.
Because they didn't want it associated with them.
Oh my god.
It's just petty stuff like that. Like, we can't have all the money, so you can't have any of it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it feels petty and gross and weird. And they get away with a lot of stuff because they make some really good things. And I'm not going to deny they do. It's just, it's weird behavior.
It is.